Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a test drive video in the BMW F20 M135i, which is fitted with the N55M performance engine. Now I know a lot of you have been probably looking forward to this video to see how this car actually delivers on its power and why this car is so special. So I am going to hook up all the GoPros and I'm going to try and position them so you can hear the engine noise and also the exhaust noise and also the induction kit that's also fitted to this car, and you'll get to hear how quick the actual gear shifts actually change on these newer F-Series ZF8 gearboxes. So let's get onto the video and let's take this car out for a test drive. Okay guys, so now we're in the BMW F20 M135i. Now obviously we've got the sun out today. Now a lot of you are probably asking me why I bought a 1 Series and especially an F20 M135i and not the E90 335i. Well, I'll explain to you right now, and I think I've explained it in my other videos. This is a car I always lusted over since they were released. I have no idea why, and if any of you had seen my previous videos, especially for the M55 reliability, that's about the only engine that I ever said was actually reliable compared to all the BMW engines. Now, many of you will think, why would I go and buy the M55 and not the M54? Well, the M54 is like the cheap man's turbo engine, and I'm not being funny, but it is. It's readily available, it's very problematic, and everyone's got it because it's so cheap. And that is in the US and even here in the UK. The F20, which is fitted with the M55 engine, is more reliable, and they improved a lot of things, including the high pressure fuel pump and the injectors later on in these cars. These cars are known for their reliability and being very solid, and the reason why I picked the M55 over the B58 is purely because B58 is still so new, it only applies to that engine. M55 uses a lot of the same parts like the M52, M53 and M54, so it's a widespread engine. The B58, however, is just on its own, and it just runs alongside the B48 and all the engines with them components. B series is still new, still unaffordable for a lot of people, therefore it didn't make sense. That's why when I was looking, I wanted the M135i. Not only that, I've always wanted one since Jeremy Clarkson did the review with the Golf GTI. These cars are incredibly powerful when you put your foot down, and the reason I bought this in a 1 Series is because how light it is. So it delivers on all its BHP, it delivers on all its power. In a 3 Series, the car's heavier, so it doesn't put the power down. Not only that, you couldn't get an M335i. I would have had to have bought the M340i, which again is with the B58 engine, which I didn't want. Now, this engine for me is much better, and it's got that raw sound that the B58 just doesn't have. The M55 really has a good exhaust sound, and that isn't just done by the active sound design pumped all through the speakers. That's just the natural sound coming from the engine as well. A lot of the sound from the B58 is pumped through the speakers, but with the M55 it's actually coming through the exhaust. Now these do have an exhaust actuator which opens up when you click the sport button to allow the exhaust sound to sound better and to open the flap. Obviously the flap stays shut to give you all that back pressure from the exhaust, so that way you get more boost and more power. But mine is welded completely open. Now they've done that because obviously they were having problems, and when these cars were new, the actuators were very expensive and you couldn't get them second hand like you could today. So people just weld them open. A lot of people weld them open also because they prefer to hear the sound all the time, that exhaust note, you know, just straight away. They don't want to have to wait until they hit the sport button to make it happen. So we are going to go on some B roads, and then we're going to put my foot down so you guys can actually hear what this engine sounds like. Now bearing in mind this is a very quick car, especially because it's light and it's obviously got the twin scroll turbo, really quick, especially in a 1 Series. And like I say, it's a car I've always lusted over. If many of you guys would have remembered, I did say I wanted a 140i or a 135i when I bought my M5, and now I've actually got one. Like I say, I couldn't be happier, and that's why I'm really happy. When I know it sounds stupid to say, but this is probably one of my dream cars to own. I don't know why that is. It's just a car as I said, I've just always wanted, and you know what, now I've got one, I really, really enjoy it. These F-Series have a much better build quality than the old E-Series. This is what BMW should have done a long time ago. They've corrected all their mistakes from the E-Series and corrected it all on the F-Series. The F-Series is a much, much better chassis and much more reliable. I mean, even a feel when you get in this, to the point, like, I can't even get in my M5 because it just feels all old tech for me. Getting in this F20 just feels so much better and so much nicer to drive than all my E-Series cars. And I'm not saying that based on now that I don't like the E-Series, because I do, of course, I like the E60. But I would rather drive this because it's much newer and it's got that newer feel than my actual E60. Obviously, a lot of you guys who are going to be watching this have got the E-Series, and obviously I'm not saying E-Series is a bad chassis. It's just, like I said, once you get in an F-Series, you don't want to get back into a E60. It's too old. Everything in there is very old tech. Coming to an F20 is a completely different feel. The way this handles is 20 times better. And as I said to you, anyone who comes and says the E87 is a much better chassis is lying to you, or they cannot afford the F-Series. If they can't afford the F-Series, it's because they've never even driven one. It's the kind of people that say about the M5 have never actually owned one that will tell you all this kind of crap that you hear. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and now just put my foot down for you guys so you get to hear it. So I'm now gonna pull it into the Sport Plus setting, and then what we should get is a Sport displays put up here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drop the gear, and if you can see there, these cars handle like nobody's business. And they're really, really quick. The power comes in immediately, like there is no lag. And you got to think, where this is the M Performance engine, this does have the extra BHP, and obviously it's had the handling tuned by BMW also. Now, a lot of people don't understand on these F-Series is where you got the Sport button there, it actually makes the throttle response a lot lighter, and it changes the whole engine dynamics just like you would on the E60 M5 and the E90 M3. Press the Sport button, it changes all the characteristics of the car. Now on this, you don't have to pull it in sport mode also, because once you've got the paddles on this and you're engaged all the manual override, you're already in charge of how long you want the revs to rev for. Now, the one good thing about the F-Series is you can either change with the paddles. If you'll see here, I'll change it with the paddles, even in comfort. And then if I don't want to change anymore, the gears, it will automatically take back over into D on its own without the need of me having to knock the shifter back over. It will automatically go back into normal drive position for automatic. That is one good thing I do like about the F-Series. I do feel like on the F-Series, BMW have corrected a lot of mistakes they should have corrected on the E-Series, and they got it all right with the F-Series. Now, I'm not just saying that just because I've got one, but I'm driving it every day, and I can tell you now, even when I look on the software and I'm looking at all the systems, the way they've got it all laid out, whoever's designed it got really angry with the way they designed the E-Series, and they brought in a new designer, and they've really corrected all their mistakes on this car. The M135i is literally in another league of its own. These cars are literally so quick, and when tuned, they actually make really, really good cars and really quick cars. And now these are well known for just putting a tune on, they're becoming ultra reliable to the point they will do anywhere between 370 to 380 bhp just with a tune. And now that's just on the pneumatic wastegate. If you've got the electronic wastegate, you can go a lot further. But these are known to handle power really, really well and be really, really reliable also. Now, on the older M55 engines, that's just simply not the case. I can't say that they are reliable. I haven't owned them, but I did know they had a lot of different failures on them. Now, that's not trying to knock anybody who's got the older M55 engine. If you have that, then so be it. It's probably been reliable to you. It just depends on the year of build. From 2011, they did change the high pressure fuel pump, and they changed a lot of the other things on the cars. Therefore, it did make it really, really reliable. Now, when the M135i come out, I believe it was probably one of BMW's best selling M cars alone. This come out before the M340i. This was the first one out, the first hatchback M135i, and it was praised with so many reviews. Everyone was highly rating it. It had so many highly rated reviews by everybody, not just people like Jeremy Clarkson, by everyone when this car come out, because of how powerful it was. The actual real figures on miles per gallon on these cars is really about 22, maybe 28 on the highway, and around town probably about 19. The miles per gallon is bad on this car, really bad, I'm not gonna lie. And the M55 is a direct injection engine, and you would think it would be better, more economical, but it's not. So if you are planning on getting this based on the figures that BMW present, it's all a lie. So do not believe that. These cars will not do anywhere in the 40s, 50s, no matter what people tell you at all on these cars. The M55 is a performance engine. You've got to remember, you're going to get performance figures. You're not going to get diesel figures on a performance engine. These M performance engines are made for power, not for fuel consumption. A lot of people do use these as weekend cars only, or toys, because of that reason. Some people use them as an everyday car. It just depends on what you want to do with the car. But if many of you guys have seen, I have uprated the oil cooler to keep the oil temps lower and also the coolant temps lower on this car. I've also upgraded the spark plugs to the one-step colder spark plugs. We've also put on the MST performance induction kit on this car. We are getting it ready for tuning. Now, these cars do perform really, really well when tuned, and that is something I do know very, very well, because everyone that seems to have these seems to take these to the tuning level and they perform flawlessly without any issues. That is because, as I said, BMW produced a car that was immense. Not only was it immense, it was something that they should have built many years ago. The F Series is probably one of the best designs, you know, since the E39, and that's being very honest with you. The E60 was a total failure until they rectified a lot of the issues in the LCI models, but you still had a lot of the timing chain breakages, a lot of the other issues on the engines. The M53 was plagued in issues. There was a lot of engine problems. But as BMW have progressed over the years with the F Series, a lot of their engines they got right, and they made them ultra reliable. Now, the M55, everyone's going to probably mention about rod bearing issue. Providing you let the oil temps come up and you look after the car and you don't redline it from cold, you will have no issues with rod bearing. But if you're flooring the car everywhere you go from cold, then you're going to expect rod bearing failure. And you do get a lot of idiots who do actually try and redline it, blow their rod bearings, and then try and blame BMW, when actual fact it's actually their own fault. These cars, many people drive them over here, and you know what, in the UK you hardly hear of anyone having rod bearing failure on the M55. These engines, if looked after well, will go on for well in excess, probably around 250,000 miles with needing nothing. Now, this car is already on 118,000 miles. Many of you will say that was high, but then I did buy it quite cheap. Because I bought it cheap, obviously it had been a well looked after car, having all the control arms done, having the valve cover done, having whatever is needed in its life. I got away lightly. You guys would have seen I've just done the oil filter housing gasket, I just done the spark plugs, and little bits and pieces that needed doing. Obviously, when I bought it, the oil cooler was leaking. I rectified that immediately because I was using it. I didn't want to drive with the oil cooler leaking, so I went to buy BMW and bought a new oil cooler gasket along with the oil filter housing gasket. You saw I rectified the oil filter housing gasket as well, because that's a known weak point, and that's done, so I don't have to worry about that again. So I have addressed the most common issues on this. Now, water pumps on these don't very rarely fail either on these new ones either. I've not heard anyone complain about the water pump failing on the M135i's at all. They're really reliable. This one's on 120k, still on the original water pump. Like I said, I don't know what a lot of guys do who buy these cars in other countries with the M55 engine, that they're going through water pumps, going through this, going through that. It must be to do with the climate or the way they drive them and hammer them around as a performance car all the time. This is why BMW built the M135s, M140i's, to give you that performance feel for half the price of the M3 and the M4, which is really good. I believe BMW done that so everyone can enjoy an M performance car for a fraction of the price of what it costs. And you got to think though, by BMW building these M135i's, M140i's, M340i's, M440i's, all they're doing is diluting what actually made BMW special, which was the M3, M4 and M5. By producing all these M440i's, M135i's, M140i's, that's all it's doing to themselves. They're pushing people away from the M3, M4s and M5s and making people buy these. You know, people get in them and it's more than enough power for someone to use on a regular basis and also on a track. You know, this kind of car you can use on a normal road and it can be your normal little cruising car, or in country lanes it can wake up and become a performance car. And this is what makes these cars so special. Like I said to you, it's a car I lusted over. I always wanted it with the Chrome pack, which I got, which is classed as the Shadow Edition now by BMW. I always wanted the F20 M135i or the M140i, and I'm glad I bought the M135i. It delivers on performance, and it is an epic car, and it's something I've lusted over in Historial Blue. Also, every time I see them, it's one of them cars that you turn back, turn your head around and look at again, and it's something that I'm really proud to now own. And like I say, it's a car that will be staying with me, and I'll probably give it to my missus when I'm finished, because it's a car I've always wanted. So I hope that actually sums up the reasons why I bought the M135i. And like I say, I hope you got to hear how the engine actually performs. It performs on like another level that you would just never believe. Like I say, the gearbox is actually spot on. BMW worked wonders with that ZF8 gearbox, and the exhaust note as well, along with the car, just makes this car what it is. It's absolutely incredible. And like I say, if you do have the sports transmission, this car really does go. You don't have to be changing it over to sport anymore or doing all that. You can literally leave it in comfort, push your foot down, and the car delivers power immensely throughout the whole rev range without the need of having to change this or change that like you had to on the E-Series. This is what makes this car absolutely brilliant, and this is why I always wanted one, and I'm really glad I got one. And if you are in the market looking if you should buy an M135i or the M235i, which is the exact same thing, just the 2 Series, I would say go and buy one and don't even think twice. These cars are incredible machines, and they deliver on everything that people actually say, even on YouTube, even on the reviews. They're really reliable and really solid cars, and performance wise they're very quick and, you know, capable of going even further if you really wanted to. Tuning wise, they are strong engines. Okay guys, so as you see now, we've now gone out on a test drive in my BMW F20 M135i. So I hope you've actually enjoyed the test drive video, and you've got to hear the induction noise of the car from having the induction kit on, and you get to see how quick and powerful these cars really are. As I said to you, the F-Series is a completely different car, and this is the car BMW should have built many years ago. After the E39, BMW actually fell apart with the E60 and E90s, and this chassis is probably one of the best chassis BMW have ever put together, which was the F-Series chassis. Everything they wanted to do on the E-Series, they got right on the F-Series. And trust me, if you are in the market to go and buy one, whether it be the M135i, M140i or the 340i, go and buy it. Do not even think twice. You will thank me after you buy it. These cars actually deliver on everything that people actually say they are, and this is why I wanted one for a very long time, and I'm so glad I've actually got myself one, and in Historial Blue. I couldn't be grateful any more than I already am. This is a car I lusted over for many years, and you would have seen all the retrofits I've actually done to it, and that's because it's a car I actually wanted, and I've made it into what I wanted this car to be. Obviously, just set out to buy the exact spec that you want, and if you want it fully loaded, obviously you're going to end up paying more for a car fully loaded, especially with all the features that I've actually added to this car. So thank you very much for watching, guys. It's BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.